Hello and welcome to our session about the OWASP Top 10 Privacy Risk Project. As already said, my name is Florian Stahl. I founded the project together with Stefan in the beginning of last year. Actually, the idea for the project came up 2 years ago at the AppSec in Amsterdam, and not in Amsterdam, in Hamburg, of course. At that time, we were just thinking about, okay, we have OWASP Top 10 project for classical vulnerabilities or security vulnerabilities in web applications, but there's nothing similar or comparable for privacy risks. So, then we started to look if there's any guidance on that, but we detected there's no real guidance on that, and we started, and that's actually when we decided to found this project. So. Stefan wrote his master thesis last year about the project, and now we're both working for MSG Systems, which is an IT software consulting company based in Munich, Germany. And today we're going to tell you a little bit more about this project. First about the background and the goal of the project, but then also the method that we used to derive this top 10 risk list. And then, of course, the results and probably even more important, the countermeasures for these risks that we detected. And in the end, we're going to give you a summary. So since we're at a security conference, I first want to spend just one slide about what privacy is about. So privacy risks are related to personal data. So this is basically data about you, about me, so about every person. It could be name, address, phone number, email address, but of course also location data, IP addresses, basically everything that is connected to an individual person. So privacy is not only about security. Security, of course, is an important enabler for privacy, but privacy is also about a limitation of collection, so that not all data is collected or just a decent amount of data is collected. It's also about data quality, that the integrity is, data is integer and data is also correct. It's about specification of the purpose, so that data is only used for the purpose that it was intended for, and not also for many other purposes. This is also in connection to use limitation, so that it's only used for a limited, for some limited things, for some limited purposes. And one of the most important things is transparency, so that the peoples that their data is used should know for what the data is used actually, that they're aware of, that the data is sent to third party, that analytics is done on this data and so on. And connected to that, it's also about individual participation, so that you as an individual can choose what is done to your data, and then you can opt in, opt out, that you can tell the provider when your data should be deleted, or analyzing which analysis should be done and so on. So basically these items that you can see here is from the, are from the OECD privacy guidelines. So kind of independent framework, and that's also our definition of a privacy risk that is a violation of these guidelines. So let me just explain you a little bit the situation in the privacy sector from a simplified perspective that we currently have. I mean, there are privacy laws all over the world. Basically, every country has its own law. There's an EU directive. Within Germany, for example, we even have different laws in different parts, same in the US. So a challenge is for sure web application.
We don't have privacy laws in the US.
Yeah, for some sectors, I think. Or sectorial laws, at least. I mean, it's a quite difficult landscape, I think. So, and looking at globally used web application, of course, this is a challenge. Which law does apply for what? And it's not really, I mean, there should be global standards, and what the EU is currently working on is the General Data Protection Regulation that at least makes a common law for European citizen data, but it's still for several years already under discussion. So Then we have secret services, NSA and so on, that undermine privacy without real justification and control. And I mean, this could also be about discrimination. There was a lot of discussion about what happened in Ferguson in the US, for example, that black people are maybe discriminated. We don't know if this happens also by secret services, for example. When I went to the US last time, I had to go through a secondary security screening. So somehow it seemed that I ended up on some watch list. Maybe it was just I was just picked by random, but maybe also security and privacy consultants that do not work for the NSA or secret services are already on some kind of watch list. So, I mean, that's a difficult situation in my eyes. And of course, we have lost, for example, the current EU directive is 20 years old. They don't address real privacy risks that we have today, a globalized internet, cloud computing, and so on. So this is for sure also a challenging thing. And we have the safe harbor agreement that validates data transfer from US to the European Union. That is not really trusted by many people in the EU anymore. It's a lot of paperwork, but we're not sure if it really improves privacy. And then, and probably most important for us as technicians and people that want to make web application more secure or more privacy friendly, are technical solutions that often do not provide sufficient privacy and transparency. So in the end, we should forget about laws. They're not really enablers for privacy in web application. What we want to do with this project, we want real privacy in web applications. So because currently many web applications still contain privacy risks, but on the other hand, they are compliant to laws because maybe they're hosted in countries that have poor privacy laws, or maybe the main focus is just on compliance, just on the check mark from the legal department, but not focusing on the real-life risks. So as I said, we decided last year to found this OWASP Top 10 Privacy Risk project because there were no existing guidelines or statistical data about privacy risks in web application. I mean, laws, of course, there is the privacy by design concept that will be or will probably be part of the new EU regulation, but there's nothing more in detail that describes how to implement privacy by design. So the project so far was quite a success. We had nearly 100 privacy and security experts that participated, and the project itself had the goal to identify the most important technical and organizational privacy risks for web applications. So it's not enough to focus just on the technical issues. Privacy also has to consider organizational issues to really work. And we wanted to make it independent from this patchwork of global laws in each country, so we decided to base it on the OECD privacy principles. And to focus on real-life risks for users on the one hand, but also for the provider that of course could have a reputational or financial risk if they have poor privacy in place. The ultimate goal is to help developers, but also business architects, legal departments, basically everyone that helps in designing web applications or decides about functionality of web application to understand privacy better and also to provide transparency about privacy risks. What is not in scope is actually the self-protection for users. So if you want to protect yourself, to install some client tools, some plugins that somehow avoid storing cookies or whatever, make your computer more privacy friendlier or your browser more privacy friendly, that is not in scope, because we say there are so many users out there. Probably we have some clue about how we could do that, but there are so many users out there, they don't want to care about privacy. They don't have the time to care about privacy. They just expect that some solutions are privacy friendly. So that's why we focus on the operator, that they make their web application more privacy friendly. So what did we do in the project, or how did we get this top 10 list in the end? Of course, we had to create a model in the beginning. Mainly our model was based on a privacy impact assessment that was created by the German Federal Office for Information Security, the BSI. And on the other hand, we had the OECD privacy principles. Then we had to identify potential violations, what is actually quite similar to the threats in the security world. But we thought the term threat didn't really fit here, because actually when we have such a threat or violation, it's already a violation against the privacy principles. So that's why we chose the term of violations. Then we did a classical risk assessment. Actually, we rated the impact of the violations and had a look at the frequency of occurrence, and we multiplied both of them and became a rated list of privacy risks. So what we are currently doing is evolving countermeasures and best practices. So if any one of you is still interested in participating, so you can have a look at our website. That's actually the status where we are at the moment. So what we did to identify, actually in the end it was 20 potential privacy violations for this top 10 list. We had a look at the interactions between the web applications. So we had a look at how does it interact with third-party applications, with the operator, with authorities, with potential attackers and users. So in the end, we got 20 violations. They were on a medium aggregate level, not too deeply technical, not too high level. So it was a kind of compromise that we had to make, not to get too many and not to miss anything. Then we had actually a look at the frequency of occurrence, and in the beginning, of course, we tried to find some statistical data. How often do certain violations occur in practice? But we found out it's quite hard, or it's nearly impossible to get data from companies or statistical data about how, for example, how personal data is deleted, or if personal data is sent to third parties without the user's consent and stuff like that. And that's why we decided, okay, it makes most sense to ask experts that really deal with these issues on a daily basis. And we asked 63 privacy and security experts to rate how often these violations that we identified occur in practice. We have one example here of sharing of data with third party. And we asked then, does it happen like in between 0 to 25%, up to 1 out of 4 web applications, up to every second web application, or up to 3 out of 4 web applications, and so on. And you can see here, most people thought it's between 50, 75%, and also some more than 75%. So we had that, in the end, we converted that to a scale from 1 to 3, and it was an average of 1.8 here. And then, of course, we also needed the impact for this violation, and we did that as following. We had 40% a look at the application operator perspective on the impact on reputation and brand value and the financial loss there, and 60% at the data subject perspective, social standing, reputation, financial well-being, and personal freedom. And we also did a professional judgment here and discussion with experts, and rated each of these with a value between 1 and 3, and got an average of 2 here. And we did that for all 20 violations, and in the end, we got this list of top 10 privacy risks. I'm just going to give you a brief overview, and Stefan will tell you a bit more about those that are bold here. The first risk actually are web application vulnerabilities. So this is basically what the classical OWASP top 10 project addresses. So this is was also considered the biggest privacy risk for web applications. So the second one was operator-sided data leakage. Stefan will tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Then there's the insufficient data breach response. So this is basically about I think we heard that in some other talks today, that you always should be prepared that something happens, because like in traffic, even though if you have good driving assistance systems, there will always be accidents. So, and that's the same for privacy and security breaches, of course. Even if you have quite good privacy in place, there will be breaches and you should be prepared. On the one hand, to inform the persons that have been affected. Maybe they have to lock their credit card or change their password, so you should inform them. Also the media, possibly. And of course, you have to remediate the problem, the root cause, that the same thing doesn't happen again. Maybe disconnect the cable and yeah, patch the system. I mean, just taking the corresponding countermeasures. The fourth risk is insufficient deletion of personal data. So this is about that personal data is not deleted at all, or maybe not in time, or not on request. Why is that such a big risk? Because if data is deleted, it's not there anymore. And then if data is not there anymore, there's no risk to this data, of course. So this is part of limiting the collection of data, and that you delete it when it's not needed for the purpose you collected it. The fifth risk are non-transparent policies, terms and conditions. The sixth risk, collection of data that is not required for the primary purpose. For example, if you make a purchase on the internet and you collect location data, or you collect other data that is not really required for this purpose. So what is actually quite common at the moment, and often not transparent either. The seventh risk is sharing of data with third parties. The eighth risk is outdated personal data, so data that is basically not correct, that could damage your reputation because it's false information that is spread about you. Maybe you get a bad credit rating because data is not correct, and so on. The ninth risk is missing or insufficient session expiration. And the 10th risk is about insecure data transfer. So it's basically about non-encrypted transfer of personal data that I think Jim Manico was talking a lot about HTTPS this morning. So that is also basically what this risk is about. So now Stefan will go a little bit more into detail for some risks. And yeah.
Okay, thank you, Florian. I will now tell you something about the boldened risks. Before that, I will tell you something about the current status of the project. We've identified those risks and made a rating for it, and now we're collecting countermeasures. As Florian said before, there is no real address where you can go to if you want to address privacy risks, and the main purpose of this project is to be such a platform to give information to people. And I will now tell you what those risks are and what we've collected till now, or not everything, but partly. Okay, the first one I want to introduce to you is the second one of the risks. It's the operator-sided data leakage. Sensitive information is leaking through the operator's organization, through its own stuff and procedures. The problems that cause this privacy issue are, of course, poor access management or missing access management, the usage of unnecessary copies of personal data. What can be done against that is you can implement the access management. You can use data leakage prevention solutions. Implementing data retention or deletion management can be useful. Of course, the own stuff is already threatened by social engineering attacks who want to steal personal data out of the company, where you can use awareness campaigns or establish security protocols where your stuff can stick on. For how to handle sensitive information and how to give it further. Another problem related to this risk is the anonymization of personal data. It's very commonly used because it allows the operator's organization to avoid privacy laws. In case you've anonymize the data. It's not personal data anymore, and you can technically do whatever you can use it for whatever purpose you want to. It's used for publication and research inside and outside your organization. The problem here is that under specific circumstances, the anonymization can be breached. One example for this is the Netflix prize. Netflix once released the ratings of their customers, and they, of course, deleted the usernames of the customers, and they wanted people to try to improve the rating system of Netflix for giving you hints for which films you want to see next. And for those purposes, those anonymized data has been published, and a study from the Texas University showed that it was pretty easy to compare those data with the ratings from the Internet Movie Database, where the names are publicly available. So they could show who was rating at Netflix, and besides the ratings they wanted to publish through the Internet Movie Database, they were able to show what videos they were rating besides that. So, of course, there are different kinds of anonymization. You can delete data, you can mask data, you can generalize data, randomization. You can do several different things to try to anonymize it, but it's pretty easy to compare those data given. If you take some attributes of those data sets and compare it with another table where you have the names, you can re-identify the people. The study another study showed that you can identify most US citizens by just the postal code, the gender, and the date of birth, which is a big problem for medical research, where you often release exactly this data for doing statistics. Yes. Besides that, the second risk I want to introduce you to is the non-transparent policies and terms and conditions. It's pretty common. Everybody knows. Have you read our terms and conditions, and do you agree with it? Yes, of course I did. No, we didn't. Often people just click and want to get the opportunities to use the website. Other issues, the reasons why they are not read, or issues with the terms and conditions are they are not up to date, they are inaccurate, they are incomplete, they are hard to find, they are way too long, and basically they do not support the rational decision making. The reason why they are made so bad is they are not really made for being read by the users. They are just the legal assurance of the hosting company. So, what can be done against this? First of all, you should point out where to find the privacy-related policies. That is pretty easy. Another thing that is quite helpful, we found an example from 500px.com. In their privacy policies, they have a small explanation of what the terms and conditions are telling you. On the left-hand side, you see the long description of what data is collected by the website. I guess from the back of the room, this is just gray, it's long texts. But on the right-hand side, you can see what it basically is. They collect your registration and user profile data, and they collect the log information to improve the website. This is what, this pretty much explains what they do. And on the left-hand side, you can see the further definition, what they are doing exactly, if you want to. In case you update your terms and conditions, you should keep track of which user gave consent to which version. Its functionalities is changing, the website is changing, the purposes are changing, and if you want to further improve the website, you should keep track of which user gave you consent to do with this data what. Of course, you should make your terms and conditions available in the languages the content is in. If you just address people in Germany, it is enough to release this in German. But if you have a broader set content, you should make them available in the respective languages. Another good example we found was from Kaspersky. They provided transparency about the third parties by this table you can find on their web page. On the left-hand side is the name of the solution. You can see they gave it a category for what it's used. The name of the company who provides it, the address of the company, the privacy policy of the third party, and additionally to that, they provide an opt-out button if the third party is giving you it. From some advertisers, you can log out through you can opt out through a cookie setting, and they provide you even this button. This seems to be a way better way to show what is happening on your website to users than it's usually done. Talking about third parties, and the next risk I want to introduce you to is the sharing of data with third party. Besides how to inform users, it is important to not reveal too many data to other people, to those third parties. Basically, third parties are advertisers, all kinds of subcontractors, whose widgets, analytics, video integration, maps, social networks, etc., is implemented into your website. The problem is the data is transferred or sold without the knowledge of the users. They didn't give consent and they don't know what happens. And this leads to complete loss of control. This picture is made from Lightbeam. What you see are a couple of bubbles. The bubbles are the first parties you've visited. The first party sites you've visited. The triangles are the related third parties. And as you can see, I've just randomly visited 23 sites I'm usually visiting, and connected with it are 207 third-party sites. And it's pretty hard to keep track of who gets information about what you've just seen in such a big network, because usually I visit more than 23 sites a day. As a self-defense, it's pretty easy to use add-ons like Lightbeam, Ghostry, or NoScript. But what our project is asking, what can an application do? What can the operator do to improve this? Well, first of all, third-party services should not be used per default if it's not required. It sounds quite obvious, but you can use it conditioned. You can use content conditioned. One example for this is Sharif or Sheriff, I'm not sure how to pronounce this. It's a script which you can implement into your website. The basic problem is there are social network buttons, Facebook, Google+, Twitter, etc. And they are there that people can contribute or comment your content. But essentially, every time somebody is visiting your website, the person is tracked because his cookie or his IP address is transferred to those third-party providers. What Sharif does essentially is you can use it to replace those buttons by another solution where you still can share or link or plus the content, but the data is not transferred without, as long as you don't want to contribute. That means most users that are just visiting the websites are not tracked. Another thing that can be used is the third-party monitoring strategy. You can make gateway releases, whether you want to give specific companies or specific solutions access to a website by whitelisting or blacklisting them. You should track what are the contractual arrangements with those companies, what data are they collecting, what are they using this data for, and what are the purpose of what they do. Like we've just seen it before from the Kaspersky website. As a hint to put a company or a solution or blacklist is, of course, if your users complain about it, or if you read in newspapers something about it, you can just put it on the blacklist and block this for usage. The last thing I want to introduce you to as a missing was insufficient session expiration. Many companies try to track the user behavior as long as possible. There are pretty famous social networks, search engines, and web shops who are showing this behavior. Basically, they are using a cookie which is tracking the user behavior, which doesn't expire really. It's just for looking what the user is looking at your web page. The problem is, again, the user is not aware about the collection. They don't really recognize that they are still logged in, that their behavior is still tracked. And of course, the missing logout might raise security issues as well. What can be done with this? Of course, you can use reasonable session timeouts. You can make the logout button highly visible. And here's another solution which is provided by Web.de, a German email provider. It's working like that. If the user didn't log out of his session, the next time he's logging on, he's getting this message which explains why the logout is important, how to log out, where the logout button is, and that he should do it the next time. On the right-hand side, you see a picture which shows, is from Facebook. It shows on which devices you're logged in, where we have open sessions to Facebook, because they don't expire as well, or not too quick. Okay, now I will give you a short summary of it. Well, privacy is a big issue in a lot of web applications, and it should be improved. And there is not too much awareness about those issues till now. The biggest issue we found is that there is absolutely no practical guidance on how to avoid them. We just tried to find solutions from other sites. You've seen some of them, Sharif is one of it, or good ideas from other websites like Kaspersky or Web.de. It's just a collection what we do, and we try to give people to sort those informations and give people a guidance on how to improve it in case they wanted to, of course. Well, we are very open about the measures, what they are, whether they are technical solutions or they are more organizational solutions. The only thing that is very important it does not stick to the local laws or to some laws at all, because as Florian mentioned before, the laws are too complicated. It's too unsecure to really find a baseline for this. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Sufficient or might not work at all, and let's be somewhere in the middle. Don't you think that you need some kind of compliance or laws in order to push people to actually invest in the privacy?
Yeah, I think of course you need laws. Oh, sorry. Because we criticized laws in the beginning, and the question was, or you thought that it's necessary, laws are necessary anyway to push people, enforce privacy. And yes, I think it is definitely necessary. I think the point that we wanted to make is that there's currently not sufficiently addressing the worldwide privacy problem that we have in a globalized internet. But still, they are an important factor, and that I think it's important that the EU regulation is coming quite soon and so on. But I think it's not the only factor that will help us, because laws or companies will always try to push the laws or interpret the laws in a way that they have to take privacy not too much into consideration. I mean, we already see that what Facebook and Google is doing, they're trying. I mean, then they're going one step towards again if they get sued by the European Union or something. But it's an important factor, but still we have, I think it's good to have something independent from laws as well, some kind of best practice like the classical OWASP top 10. I mean, it's not either based on laws, even though there are computer security laws or information security laws also around the world. So I think it's good to have something independent as well. Yeah. It's for sure a combination.
But so if you say, well, people need to invest in privacy, and I think they should do.
Yeah.
But isn't it so that it might depend on the return on investment that they actually will do it or not?
Yeah, what might probably help us are civil organizations. There is the so-called Big Brother Award, which is an example where they award, it's a negative award for companies or organizations who do privacy, who are very privacy violent, and if a company is rated on that, they start getting interest in improving the privacy in their company. They will do the effort then more likely than they usually do. But it's a fight, of course.
And I think what also might help is, I mean, what you also see now, that some companies that are, people say about them that they don't take privacy too much into account. Of course, some users leave the companies, or some companies try to use other products. I mean, they also get some commercial pressure as well, but we don't see that on a scale yet that the behavior really changes, I think.
Any other question?
Otherwise, we still have some few flyers about the project here, if you want to take one. Otherwise, the flyer is available on the project website as well. Yeah.
Maybe just a comment. I've been going to the European Security Conference, the one in January every year. And after a couple of years I stopped going because it was such a frustrating experience. All these legal people coming together, talking about privacy, and it went down and down and down every year, down and down and down.
The CPDP in Brussels?
CPDP.
Yeah, I was there too, yeah.
So, how can you keep up? I get too much frustrated by going there.
I mean, definitely, it's a hard fight, if you want to call it like that. I mean, maybe even more difficult than in security. But on the other hand, we also get a lot of quite positive feedback about our project from people working in this area, data protection authorities that recommend it as a best practice. Some people say that, okay, we started to implement it. Of course, on a large scale, we are kind of, I don't know, I don't want to call it lost, but I mean, of course, we're in a difficult situation when you have a look at privacy, because I think the world, it gets really complex, you know, and nobody really has transparency, and most people, and I think that's a big issue, because many people don't care too much about privacy because they don't really know what happens. So, and on the other hand, of course, it's a luxury problem as well. If you have a look at people that maybe have a hard time, like, you know, I've been, 1 or 2 years ago, I've been in a slum in India, and they told us 70% of the people there use Facebook. Of course, they don't care about privacy. They only are happy to have some media to communicate with each other. So, of course, it's a kind of luxury problem as well. But still an important issue, because on the long term, it's if informational self-determination and somehow protects democracy as well. If you, yeah.